In today's geopolitical landscape, China's infrastructure push is no longer just a development story. It has become one of the central arenas of global power competition. As China builds roads, railways, ports, and digital networks across continents, the United States and Europe are increasingly responding with their own counter-strategies. What began as a domestic transformation has evolved into a global struggle over influence, supply chains, and the architecture of the world economy. China's approach is straightforward and ambitious. Use infrastructure to reshape trade routes, strengthen political relationships, and secure long-term strategic advantages. The Belt and Road Initiative, covering more than 150 countries, remains the backbone of this strategy. Ports from Gwadar to Hambantota, railways from Kenya to Laos, and energy corridors stretching across Central Asia create physical and economic ties that steadily expand China's presence. But as China's influence grows, the West has begun moving from passive observation to active counterbalancing. The U.S. response: strategic containment through economic corridors. Washington's strategy focuses on building alternative trade and energy routes that bypass Chinese influence. Key initiatives include 1. The India-Middle East-Europe Economic Corridor, IMEC. Announced at the 2023 G20 Summit, IMEC aims to create a long-distance rail and shipping network linking India, the Gulf states, and Europe, deliberately designed as a counterweight to China's Belt and Road. The corridor bypasses China-aligned routes and strengthens U.S. ties with India and Middle Eastern partners. 2. Friendshoring global supply chains. The U.S. actively encourages companies to move production to allies such as Mexico, Vietnam, and the Philippines. The idea is simple: reduce the world's dependence on Chinese infrastructure, logistics, and industrial capacity. 3. Direct opposition to China's digital infrastructure. China's digital Silk Road, 5G networks, cloud services, undersea cables, has drawn intense pushback. The U.S. has pressured allies to block Huawei and other Chinese firms from critical telecommunications networks, framing digital infrastructure as a national security battleground. Europe's response: competing through standards in capital Europe takes a different approach. Less confrontational, more regulatory, but no less strategic. 1. Global Gateway Initiative. The EU's flagship counter-project promises $300 billion for infrastructure across Africa, Asia, and Latin America. Unlike China, Europe emphasizes standards, environmental compliance, transparency, and democratic governance. It seeks to build influence not through speed and scale, but through rules and values. 2. Tightening investment screening. European governments have increased scrutiny of Chinese acquisitions of ports, airports, and logistics companies, especially after China's expansion in Greece, Italy, and Eastern Europe raised political alarms. 3. The de-risking doctrine. Europe avoids the U.S.'s confrontational language but pursues the same goal: reduce dependency on Chinese ports, rare earths, green energy components, and digital infrastructure. China's countermoves: selectivity, digital influence, and strategic depth. Facing criticism and competition, China is shifting its strategy into a more targeted and high-tech phase. 1. Fewer but more strategic BRI projects. Beijing now prioritizes projects with geopolitical value: deep water ports, energy corridors, critical mineral access, digital infrastructure. 2. The rise of BRI 2.0, digital dominance. China is building data centers, smart city platforms, e-payment ecosystems, and cross-border fiber cables. These systems bind countries into China's technological orbit far more tightly than a traditional highway or bridge. 3. Strengthening ties with the global South. As U.S.-China tensions intensify, many developing countries see Chinese infrastructure as an alternative to Western conditionality. China leverages this sentiment with long-term loans, turnkey construction teams, and integrated logistics solutions that Western governments struggle to match. The strategic stakes. This isn't just about construction. It's about who sets the rules of global trade, who controls the data flows of the digital age, who countries depend on for energy, transport, communication, and ultimately, political alignment. In the emerging world order, infrastructure is influence, and connectivity is power. China uses infrastructure to expand its global footprint. The US counters by reshaping supply chains and creating alternative corridors. Europe fights through standards, rules, and financial packages. Asia, Africa, and Latin America become the arenas where these competing visions collide. And as nations choose between Chinese-built systems and Western-backed alternatives, the future of global geopolitics is being quietly, steadily paved. Kilometer by kilometer, port by port, cable by cable, the battle for infrastructure is the battle for the 21st century.